Hello and welcome to What Work Teaches. Will this work in my school? Is a question we often get asked by teachers when they look at research evidence. So in 2020, we started What Worked Education to help teachers to robustly test what works and what does not work for the pupils in their schools. So how do we support teachers? So What Work Teaches is designed to help teachers set up, implement and test strategies in your school. We include 3 short videos to help you to understand how to use the platform, the intervention, and how to implement this evaluation in your school. Then include a brief research protocol, which just explains how we're running the research. Then include a resource folder, which includes all the materials you need to deliver this intervention. And then we have a trial wizard, which is an automated guide to support users to help set up the intervention, and it analyzes the data you input to provide an impact report at the end of the study. So how does a micro RCT work? So what we're helping you to do is to robustly test, does this intervention show promise in your school? So the first thing we ask you to do is to identify 2 similar ability classes. So this could be 2 Year 4 classes or 2 Year 5 classes. The system will then randomly allocate 1 class to the intervention and 1 to the control. Both classes complete the pre-assessment task, and in this instance it's a simple spelling test. And then in the intervention group will use the simple spelling strategy, and then the control class will continue as normal. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, both groups complete the same pre-assessment task again as a measure to see how the intervention has worked. And then the system will generate an impact report. And if it shows promise and the result's positive, then the control class can then use that intervention. So how does the platform actually work? So the first thing, which you've already done, is to select the intervention you're going to test. We then have 3 short videos that you need to watch. So this one is your first one, which is a demonstration guide on how to use the platform. We then have an intervention overview and then an implementation overview. Then click the download, which will download a research protocol, which just explains how the research works. And this varies depending on where the research is running. And then you download the resource folder. So in the resource folder, you will see an Excel spreadsheet, but you will also see a paper version of the tracking document and then any resource that you need to run the intervention. And then the next thing you do is click Get Started. So you pick a date on when you're going to start this, and then you pick a date for the end. So this will be 4 weeks. And then with the 2 classes, you put the class names in, and then the number of students who are in the class. So it is quite important just to make sure that you correctly put the number of students in. And then once you've put your students in for both classes, the system will then randomly allocate 1 to the control and 1 to the intervention. The next thing you do is you run the pre-test, which will be the spelling test in this instance with your classes, and then you input in the data. So this does not work great on mobile phones. So what we ask you to do is to use the tablets or to use a laptop computer. And then if you're using class data, it's always best to have another teacher to read out the scores. So it's a bit quicker to input it. Okay, so if you're international, please just ignore free school meal status. And then you run the trial over the next 4 weeks. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, you complete your post-test. and then you put your scores in again. So as I just explained, please ignore the free school meal status. That's just a UK based measure for deprivation. We are going to change that for international trials going into later in the year. So you just put your pre and post test scores in. And then you click Analyze your results. We then ask you, if possible, just to complete a quick survey to let us know how this has been implemented in the classroom. And then you click Analyze. So analyze the results. And then that will generate an impact report for how this intervention has worked in your school. And one final thing to note is once you sign up for a trial, you don't have to sign up again. If you log in, you go to the My Trials tab, which will then have your trial on there. So when you click complete, that's it done. And you've just completed your first piece of educational research to see how this has worked in your school. So one quick thing around data integrity. A goal as simple as what worked is to help teachers learn what works best in the classroom by using real evidence from other teachers like you. The evidence is only as strong if the data is accurate. So please just make sure that you follow the random assignment and you enter honest and complete data. So when teachers across schools try the same activity, we then combine the results together. And this helps us see what works in different classrooms. It's really important to note that this is not a measure of you as a teacher. We are looking at the strategies that you're using to find out what works best to have the most impact with your learners. And together we can build something powerful, a teacher-led evidence base that helps every child learn better. One question we get asked is it ethical to withhold an intervention from control group students? And the key thing with the micro trials is we are only running this over a short period of time. So the control group have access to the intervention after the post-test has been completed and showed a positive impact. We're using typical practice that is often used in schools, and we collect no learner data on our platform. It's fully anonymized, so head teacher consent is sufficient to participate. So next steps is to move on to the short intervention video, which is a couple of minutes long, will explain how to do your spelling intervention.